Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Now, let's take a closer look at Emma's life, where she juggles the pressures of her job, her dreams, and the challenges that seem to follow her at every turn. The next day, Emma was back at her apartment, pacing back and forth. She couldn't stop thinking about last night. The awkwardness, the embarrassment, it had all replayed in her mind over and over again. She had run out of the restaurant before she even had the chance to apologize, but what made it worse was the fact that she'd been so sure. She had really thought he was Kevin. The message on her phone still lingered in her mind. Hey Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you, Kevin. She dropped her bag onto the couch, sitting down with a heavy sigh. She didn't even know why she had felt so drawn to him, this stranger who wasn't even the person she was supposed to meet. Was it his calmness? His quiet confidence? Or maybe it was just his warmth, the way he smiled that made her feel like she could breathe for once. She had to shake it off. There was no reason to keep dwelling on it. It was just a silly mix-up, and it wasn't like she was ever going to see him again anyway. But just as she was about to pull herself together, there was a knock at the door. It startled her, and she stood up quickly, her heart pounding. She hadn't been expecting anyone, and the last thing she needed was more awkward encounters. She walked to the door, pulling it open to find a man standing there, holding a bouquet of flowers. Emma froze. It was Liam. But little did Emma know, Liam wasn't just here to apologize. He had a plan, one that would change everything for her. And soon, Emma would find out just how much her life was about to shift. For now, though, she had a chance to process everything, and perhaps to learn more about the man behind the suit and the tech empire. The next chapter of their story had only just begun. Over the next few days, Emma found herself thinking about Liam more than she ever thought she would. Their coffee date had been simple, relaxed, nothing fancy. It was just two people getting to know each other. They talked about their lives, their dreams, and surprisingly, Emma felt comfortable with him in a way she hadn't felt with anyone in a long time. For once, she wasn't trying to impress anyone, and Liam seemed genuinely interested in who she was, not just what she did for a living. He asked about her art, her goals, and even listened when she spoke about her struggles. It was refreshing. She hadn't expected someone like him to care so much about the small things. But as the days passed, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. She had learned a lot about Liam, his work in tech, his calm demeanor, and how passionate he was about what he did. But there was still something about him she didn't fully understand. He had money, power, and connections, yet he was so down-to-earth, so approachable. It made her wonder if maybe there was more to him than he was letting on. One evening, just a week after their first coffee, Emma received an unexpected message. It was from Liam, asking if she wanted to join him at a charity gala. She hesitated at first, unsure of what to make of the invitation. A gala? It seemed like something out of her league. But then she remembered the easy conversation they'd had, the way he had made her feel like she wasn't just another waitress. He had made her feel like she mattered. After some hesitation, she replied, agreeing to go. The night of the gala, Emma stood in front of her mirror, unsure of how to dress. She didn't have anything fancy, and even if she did, it wouldn't match the elegance of the event. She ended up wearing the nicest dress she had, a simple black number that was elegant but not overly flashy. She put her hair up in a neat bun and slipped into a pair of modest heels. It was the best she could do. When she arrived at the venue, the grandeur of the place nearly took her breath away. The crystal chandeliers, the people in evening gowns and tuxedos, it felt like something out of a movie. As she walked through the entrance, she spotted Liam across the room, talking to a group of people. His presence was commanding, yet his eyes met hers immediately, and the smile he gave her was warm and genuine. You made it, Liam said as he walked over to greet her. He was dressed in a sharp tuxedo, looking every bit the part of the successful millionaire he was. Emma felt her stomach tighten. She felt so out of place here, surrounded by people who seemed so much wealthier, so much more polished. But Liam didn't seem to notice. He was just, Liam, I didn't think I'd be able to make it, Emma said, her voice tinged with nervousness. "This is all a bit overwhelming." "You look beautiful," Liam said, his voice sincere. "You're going to be just fine. Just relax and enjoy the night. No need to worry about anyone else. We're just here to have a good time." Emma smiled, feeling a little less nervous. Liam was right. Maybe she didn't belong in this world, but that didn't mean she couldn't enjoy the night. She was here with him, and that was enough. The evening passed in a blur of conversation, laughter, and a little bit of awkwardness as Emma navigated her way through the crowd. Liam introduced her to a few people, and she quickly realized that he was well known in these circles. But despite his connections and his wealth, he was never too busy to make sure she was comfortable. He stayed close to her, his attention never wavering, and it made her feel like she was the most important person in the room. At one point, they stepped outside onto the balcony to get some fresh air. The city lights sparkled below them, and Emma felt a sense of calm wash over her as the cool night air brushed against her skin. "I'm glad you came," Liam said, his voice quieter now. He looked at her, his expression softer than before. "I've been thinking about you a lot, Emma. About the connection we've shared." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say something like that. They had only known each other for a short time, but in that moment, it felt like everything between them was real, like something more was beginning to form. "I've been thinking about you too," Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never expected any of this to happen. I never thought I'd be here, in a place like this, with someone like you." Liam smiled, stepping a little closer. "I know what you mean. Sometimes life surprises you, doesn't it?" They stood there for a moment, the sounds of the gala drifting in from the ballroom behind them, but neither of them seemed in a rush to go back inside. In that moment, Emma realized that, despite the differences in their lives, they had a connection, a real one, not just a superficial attraction. And that scared her. She didn't want to be hurt, didn't want to lose herself in a fantasy. But as she looked into Liam's eyes, she knew that whatever happened next, she was ready to see where this would take them. But even as she embraced this new chapter, Emma had no idea that the true test of their connection was just around the corner. The next few weeks were a whirlwind for Emma. After the gala, things between her and Liam began to shift. They spent more time together, both inside and outside of the office. What started as a casual coffee date evolved into something deeper. They went to dinner, visited art galleries, and sometimes they would just sit in quiet parks, sharing simple conversations. Liam's presence was always comforting, and Emma found herself opening up more than she ever had with anyone else. It was like he understood her in a way no one else did. They both had their share of struggles, but somehow, being with him made those struggles feel a little lighter. One evening, after a quiet dinner at a small Italian restaurant Liam had chosen, they were walking through the city streets. The night air was cool, and Emma wrapped her coat tighter around her. Liam, always the gentleman, offered her his arm, which she took without thinking. They walked in comfortable silence for a few moments before Liam broke it. "I'm really glad we've gotten to know each other better, Emma," Liam said, his voice sincere. "I know we started this as just a favor, but it's become something much more than that for me. I didn't expect to feel like this." Emma glanced up at him, her heart skipping a beat. She had felt it too, but she wasn't sure how to respond. Was it too soon to say she felt the same? Could she really trust this? She had always been wary of falling for someone too quickly, especially someone like Liam. "I feel the same," Emma said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "I never expected any of this either. It's strange. I keep thinking this is all too good to be true, that somehow it will all fall apart." Liam stopped walking, turning to face her. His expression was serious, but his eyes held a certain tenderness. "I know what you mean. I felt that too, especially with everything I've built in my life. It's hard to trust that something real can come from it." Emma felt a pang in her chest. She hadn't realized how much she had started to trust Liam, how much she had let him into her life. The thought of losing that connection, of it being nothing more than a fleeting moment, scared her. She reached out, placing her hand on his arm. "But what if this is real?" she asked, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "What if we're just scared of what's possible?" Liam smiled softly, gently pulling her into a hug. "What if we are?" he murmured. "Maybe the best things in life come when we stop overthinking and just let things happen." They stood there for a while, wrapped in each other's embrace, the bustling city around them fading away. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she wasn't alone in this world, that maybe, just maybe, this was where she was supposed to be. The next day, things began to take a turn. Liam invited Emma to a business event, an important meeting for his company. It was a big deal, and she wasn't sure what he wanted her to do there. Was it just another step in their growing connection, or was this something more? As the day approached, Emma began to feel nervous again. She wasn't sure how she would fit into that world, into his world. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight, especially not in a room full of powerful people. On the day of the event, Liam picked her up in a sleek black car, looking dashing in his tailored suit. Emma, on the other hand, felt a bit out of place in her simple but elegant dress. She had never been to anything like this, and it made her feel a little unsure of herself. "You look amazing," Liam said as he caught her looking at herself in the car's side mirror. "Don't worry, Emma. Just be yourself. That's all you need to do." They arrived at the venue, and the moment Emma stepped out of the car, she felt the weight of the world around her. There were flashes from cameras, a sea of well-dressed individuals chatting in groups, and a sense of sophistication in the air. She felt small in comparison. Liam walked beside her, never letting her feel too out of place, always reassuring her with quiet words and gentle glances. As they entered the grand ballroom, Emma's nerves began to settle. She realized that despite the extravagance, it wasn't so different from the people she had met at the restaurant or the ones she had spent time with at art galleries. They were just people, like her. And Liam was right there with her, making her feel like she belonged. They mingled, and although Emma was still adjusting to the high society atmosphere, she found herself enjoying it more than she thought she would. Liam introduced her to several people, and she was surprised at how easy it was to talk to them. Liam stood by her side, offering support whenever needed. But just as things were starting to feel comfortable, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. A woman in a sleek black dress approached them with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Liam, I see you've brought someone new with you," the woman said, eyeing Emma with barely concealed judgment. Emma's stomach dropped, and she could feel the tension in the air. Who was this woman? And why did she feel like her presence was an unwelcome interruption? Liam's face tightened, and he stepped a little closer to Emma, his hand lightly resting on her arm. "This is Emma," he said, his voice steady. "And she's with me tonight." The woman's smile faltered slightly before she turned to Emma. "It's nice to meet you," she said, though the tone was anything but warm. Emma felt a rush of insecurity. Was she really meant to be here? Was she just a distraction for Liam? But before she could dwell on it any longer, Liam gently squeezed her hand and turned back to the woman. "Excuse us," he said firmly, guiding Emma away. "Let's go grab a drink." Emma's heart raced. She could feel the tension in the air, but Liam's presence was like a shield. He didn't let anything or anyone affect her. And in that moment, Emma realized she wasn't just a placeholder in Liam's life. She was a part of it. And that was something she could never let go of. The days after the gala seemed to pass in a blur. Emma couldn't stop thinking about the confrontation with the woman, the one who seemed to have it all figured out. The way she looked at Emma made her feel so out of place, as if she didn't belong in Liam's world. But every time she started to doubt herself, she thought about the way Liam had stood by her, the way he had taken her hand and guided her away from the awkward situation. He didn't let anything or anyone affect her. He made her feel like she mattered. It was a feeling Emma hadn't had in a long time. No one had ever made her feel like she was worth something, especially not in a room full of powerful, successful people. But Liam had, and that thought both comforted and scared her. She had grown so used to being invisible, to being just another person in the background. Now, she was at the center of someone's attention, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for that. A few days later, Emma found herself once again sitting across from Liam, this time at a quiet cafe. The mood between them was lighter, but there was an underlying tension, a question both of them were avoiding. "You're quiet today," Liam remarked, his gaze soft but concerned. "What's on your mind?" Emma hesitated, unsure if she should bring it up. She didn't want to seem insecure, but the weight of the question had been lingering in her mind for days. Was she really part of Liam's world? Or was this just some temporary distraction for him? "I've been thinking about that woman at the gala," Emma said slowly. "The way she looked at me, like I didn't belong there. I don't know. Maybe I don't." Liam leaned forward, his expression serious. "Emma, you do belong. And don't let anyone make you feel like you don't. You're here with me, and that's all that matters." But Emma wasn't convinced. She had been part of too many situations where she was just a passing phase for someone, just a part of the story that would eventually be forgotten. She looked down at her hands, feeling a sense of unease. I don't know, she said quietly. I don't know if I'm cut out for this world. I've never been the kind of person who fits in at these kinds of events. I've never had money, never had anything but my dreams and my work. Liam's hand reached across the table, gently taking hers. His touch was warm, grounding her, but his eyes were full of something more, something deeper. Listen to me, he said, his voice steady. You are more than enough. You're not just a waitress, Emma. You're someone with a heart that sees beyond what others can. You make this world better just by being in it. Emma looked up, meeting his gaze. For the first time, she saw the sincerity in his eyes. The doubt in her chest started to fade, replaced by something else, a small spark of hope. I just don't want to be the person who drags you down, Emma admitted, her voice shaky. I don't want to be that girl who gets in the way of your success, of your world. Liam's thumb brushed gently over her hand, his voice softer now. You're not a distraction, Emma. You're a part of this. You're a part of my life, whether you believe it or not. The words sank deep into her heart, and for the first time, she truly believed him. She wasn't just someone passing through his life. She was someone who mattered, and that scared her more than anything. But as the days passed, Emma found herself letting go of her fears little by little. She began to see herself differently, not as someone who didn't belong, but as someone who had a right to be in Liam's world. Slowly, they grew closer, their connection deepening with every passing day. One night, as they sat together in Liam's penthouse, looking out over the city skyline, Emma felt a strange sense of peace. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she had found her place. And it wasn't just in Liam's life, it was in the life they were building together. Liam turned to her, his expression soft, and in that moment, Emma saw everything she needed to see. There was no uncertainty, no more fear. Just the two of them, sharing something real. I don't know where this is going, but I know I want to find out, Liam said, his voice full of conviction. Emma smiled, her heart swelling with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Me too, she whispered. And with that, Emma knew that whatever happened next, she was ready to take the leap. Because for the first time, she believed in the possibility of something real, something that wasn't based on who they were or where they came from, but on the connection they shared. What Emma didn't know was that the journey ahead would be full of even bigger surprises, ones that would test their trust, their love, and their future together. As the days turned into weeks, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to grow. The initial awkwardness from their blind date had long faded, replaced by something deeper, something real. Liam's world, with its grand events and high-profile meetings, had started to feel more like home to her. But as much as she had started to find her place in his life, Emma couldn't help but feel the weight of her insecurities creeping back in. She had never been the type of woman to rely on someone else. She had worked hard for everything she had, and the thought of needing someone else, of depending on Liam in any way, felt foreign to her. One afternoon, as they sat together in the cozy corner of a cafe, Emma watched Liam as he scrolled through his phone, his brow furrowed in concentration. She couldn't help but notice the way his face lit up whenever he talked about work, the passion he had for his company and the projects he was leading. She admired that about him. He was driven, ambitious, everything she had always strived to be. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was still not enough. Not enough to match his world. Not enough to fit into the life he had already built. What's on your mind? Liam asked, looking up from his phone. His voice was gentle, as though he could sense the tension in her. Emma hesitated, trying to push the thoughts out of her mind. I don't know, she said, forcing a smile. I guess I'm just thinking about everything, about how different our lives are. You know, I've been doing this for so long, just working and getting by. I don't want to be the person who's holding you back. Liam set his phone down, his eyes locking onto hers. Emma, he said softly, his voice unwavering. You're not holding me back. You're with me because I want you here. You make my life better. You make me better. Her heart skipped a beat at his words. She wanted so badly to believe him, to trust in this connection they had. But the fear still lingered. I don't want to be the person who needs fixing, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I've spent so much of my life fixing myself that I can't help but wonder if I'm ever going to be enough for someone like you." Liam's expression softened, and he reached across the table to take her hand in his. His touch was steady, grounding her. "You don't need to fix anything, Emma," he said. "You're already perfect just the way you are. And I'm not looking for someone perfect. I'm looking for someone real. Someone who challenges me, who makes me think differently. Someone who makes my life worth living. And that's you." Emma felt a lump form in her throat at his words. She had never allowed herself to believe that she could be enough for someone like him. But here he was, telling her the exact opposite. And in that moment, something inside of her shifted. She realized that her doubts, her fears, they didn't have to define her. She could be with Liam, not because she was perfect, but because they fit together in a way that felt right. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm scared that I'll lose myself in all of this. In you, in your world." Liam smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to lose yourself, Emma," he reassured her. "You're not in this alone. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." She looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, she truly believed him. This wasn't just a fleeting thing. It wasn't just a casual fling. This was something real. And it was scary as hell, but it was also the most beautiful thing she had ever experienced. As the weeks went by, Emma found herself becoming more comfortable in Liam's world. She attended more events, met more of his colleagues, and even started to get involved in some of his charity projects. She realized that, while their lives were different, their values were the same. They both believed in making the world a better place, in giving back, in living authentically. And that shared belief was the foundation that would hold them up. One evening, after a long day of meetings and events, Liam and Emma found themselves alone in his penthouse. The city lights twinkled outside, and the soft hum of the city filled the silence between them. "I'm glad you're here," Liam said, his voice low and sincere as he pulled her close. Emma smiled, resting her head against his chest. "I'm glad I'm here too," she whispered. "But I think I'm ready to stop doubting myself. To stop thinking I'm not enough." "You are enough," Liam said, his hand gently stroking her hair. "You always have been." In that moment, Emma realized that everything she had feared, every doubt, every insecurity, was nothing compared to what she had found in Liam. She didn't need to be perfect. She didn't need to be anything other than herself. And that was enough. As she looked up at him, their faces inches apart, she knew that this was just the beginning of their journey. There would be challenges ahead, but with Liam by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came their way. Together, and as they shared a quiet, tender kiss, Emma knew in her heart that she had found something real, something worth fighting for. Weeks passed, and Emma began to feel more and more at ease in Liam's world. Their relationship deepened, and she found herself becoming part of his life in ways she hadn't expected. She attended events with him, helped him with charity work, and spent quiet nights in, learning more about each other. It was everything she had never thought possible, yet it felt so right. But as much as Emma felt herself falling deeper into this new life, a new challenge began to arise, one that would force her to confront her biggest fear. One afternoon, as they sat together in Liam's office, discussing the details of an upcoming charity gala, Emma could feel the weight of the conversation shifting. Liam seemed preoccupied, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a subtle tension. Liam glanced up at her, his expression guarded. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but hesitated. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had seen this before, this sudden withdrawal, this emotional distance. It was like a wall going up between them. Liam let out a sigh, running a hand through his hair. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "About us, about my company, about the future. There are a lot of changes coming, and I'm not sure how it's all going to affect us." Emma's stomach churned. She had known something like this was coming, hadn't she? They couldn't stay in this bubble forever. There was always something on the horizon, some challenge that would pull them apart. She tried to push the thoughts aside but couldn't stop the creeping doubt. He stood up, walking over to the window as he looked out over the city. The tension in his shoulders was palpable, and Emma's heart ached with every passing second of silence. He turned back to her, his expression a mixture of frustration and uncertainty. Emma stood up, her hands trembling. She had never imagined that their love could be threatened by something as intangible as responsibility. But here they were, facing the reality that their worlds, despite the connection they shared, might not fit together as seamlessly as they had hoped. "I don't understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You want me in your life, but you can't make it work? You're telling me I have to choose between you and everything else?" Liam stepped closer to her, his gaze intense. "No, Emma. I'm telling you that I'm trying to make this work. I just don't know how. I want you in my life, but I can't keep pretending that everything is simple when it's not." The words hit Emma like a punch to the gut. The fear she had pushed down for so long began to rise to the surface, flooding her mind with doubts. She wasn't enough, was she? She had always known that people like Liam had lives full of complexity, full of things she didn't understand. And now, it was too much. She was going to lose him. For a moment, they both stood there in silence, the weight of the conversation heavy in the air. But then Emma took a deep breath, looking up at Liam. There had to be a way through this. They had built something real, hadn't they? It wasn't just about the challenges of their different worlds. It was about the love they shared. She wasn't going to let it slip away. "Liam, I love you," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "And I'm not asking you to choose between me and your life. But I need to know that you want this. That we're not just something you do because it's easy. I need to know you're all in, because I am." He looked at her for a long moment, his eyes searching hers, as though trying to decide if this was something he could give. Finally, his expression softened, and he nodded slowly. The tension between them eased, but the fear still lingered. Emma wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, it would be okay. Because love, real love, wasn't about perfection. It was about fighting through the hard times, together. And as Liam pulled her into a tight embrace, Emma knew that no matter what came next, they would face it as a team. She had never been more sure of anything in her life. In the weeks that followed, things between Emma and Liam seemed to settle into a rhythm. They were both working hard, but there was a new sense of understanding between them. Liam had made it clear that he was committed, not just to his company, but to her as well. And Emma, despite the lingering fears, was learning to trust him, learning to believe that she was worth fighting for. But life, as it always does, threw another curveball at them. One afternoon, as they sat in Liam's office, discussing a new project for the charity gala, Emma received an unexpected phone call. Her heart dropped as she saw the name on the screen, her mother's doctor. Without thinking, she answered the call, her voice tight with worry. Liam looked at her, sensing the change in the air. "Emma, what's wrong? What happened?" His voice was urgent, his concern clear. He stood up from behind his desk and walked over to her. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she met his gaze. "It's my mom, Liam. She's getting worse. The doctor said it's time to make some decisions. I need to go to the hospital." Without another word, Liam stepped forward, wrapping his arms around her. He didn't ask questions, didn't offer any empty words of reassurance. He simply held her, offering her his strength. It was in that moment that Emma realized how far they had come. She wasn't facing this alone anymore. He was with her. Emma shook her head, her emotions tangled. "I don't want you to feel like you have to be involved in this. It's my family, and it's complicated. I don't want you to feel like you need to fix everything." Liam gently cupped her face, his expression soft but resolute. "Emma, I'm not here to fix anything. I'm here because I care about you. You're not alone in this. I want to be there with you, no matter what." She looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of doubt, but there was none. He meant every word. Emma's heart swelled, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to let go of the fear. She didn't have to do this on her own. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Emma barely registered the passing scenery, her mind consumed with thoughts of her mother and the decision that loomed over her. When they arrived, Liam was right there by her side, offering her a steady hand as they walked through the sterile hospital corridors. Inside her mother's room, Emma was greeted by the familiar smell of antiseptic and the low hum of medical equipment. Her mother was lying in bed, her face pale but peaceful. It was the same room she had been in for weeks, and yet, the silence in the room now felt heavier than ever. Emma sat beside her mother, taking her hand in hers. "I'm here, Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking. She didn't know what to say, didn't know how to prepare herself for what was coming. Her mother had been her rock, the one person who had always been there for her, no matter what. And now, Emma was facing the reality of losing her. Liam stood by the door, giving Emma the space she needed, but his presence was a quiet support. He hadn't said a word since they arrived, but just knowing he was there, that he hadn't left her side, gave Emma the strength to keep going. After what felt like an eternity, Emma turned to Liam, her face streaked with tears, but her eyes clear with determination. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how I would have gotten through this without you." Liam walked over to her, kneeling beside her and taking her hand. "You don't have to thank me. I'm here for you always. You don't ever have to do this alone again." For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma allowed herself to lean into him, her body trembling with the weight of everything that had happened and everything that was yet to come. But she wasn't alone. Not anymore. And as they sat there together, Emma knew that no matter what the future held, she would face it with Liam by her side. In the days that followed, Emma spent every moment she could with her mother. The hospital visits became a routine, painful but necessary. Each day, she watched her mother fade just a little more, her strength slowly slipping away. But through it all, Liam was there, quietly supporting her, never once leaving her side. He didn't ask for anything in return. He simply gave her his presence, his strength, and most of all, his love. And in a time when Emma felt like the world was crumbling around her, that love became her anchor. It was late one evening when the inevitable happened. Her mother passed away peacefully, surrounded by the warmth of Emma's hand in hers. Emma sat by her side, holding on tightly, not wanting to let go. The grief was overwhelming, but there was a sense of relief too, knowing her mother was no longer in pain. Liam was there, of course. He had been with her throughout this entire ordeal, never once asking for anything more than to help her through the darkest time of her life. As Emma sat in the quiet room, her emotions swirling, she turned to Liam, who was standing by the door, giving her space. Their eyes met, and without a word, he crossed the room and knelt beside her. Emma shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You've done more than enough," she said, her voice raw with emotion. "You've been here. You haven't left me. That's all I needed." Liam gently wiped away a tear from her cheek and took her hand. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you always." The next few days were a blur. The funeral, the arrangements, and the endless stream of well-wishers. Emma had never felt so alone in her life, but she knew she had to be strong. She had to honor her mother's memory. But the weight of it all threatened to crush her. That was when Liam stepped in, more than just a partner. He was her rock. He handled the logistics, he offered quiet support, and above all, he gave her the space she needed to grieve. One evening, after everything had settled, they found themselves sitting together in Liam's penthouse. The city lights twinkled in the distance, but for once, the world outside felt like it didn't matter. Emma sat with her head resting on his shoulder, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breath as he held her close. Emma's heart swelled at his words. She had never imagined that love could feel like this, unwavering, constant, and full of grace. She had spent so many years building walls around her heart, afraid of being hurt, afraid of depending on someone else. But now, in Liam's arms, she realized she had found something real, something worth fighting for. They sat in the quiet of the evening, the weight of the past few weeks slowly lifting as they simply existed in each other's presence. There was no need for grand declarations, no need for words to fill the space between them. They had already said everything that mattered. As the days turned into weeks, Emma began to heal. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick, but with Liam by her side, she knew she could face anything that came her way. Together, they were building something strong, something lasting, a love that could withstand even the toughest of times. And as they looked ahead to the future, Emma realized that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she was ready. With Liam by her side, she had everything she needed to move forward. They had found their way through the darkness, and now they would face the light together. Because in the end, love wasn't about perfection. It was about finding someone who would stand by you, no matter what, and making the choice to never let go.